everybody? It's Joe from Complex. We're in Miami at Flight Club with global soccer icon and entrepreneur, David Beckham. Gonna do some sneaker shopping today. Gonna see what he's feeling, what he's not, and then hopefully he's gonna buy some sneakers.
I hope so.
Let's go. David, we'll get to the deal, but I want to talk like early beginnings coming up, before the fame. What was your sneaker habits like, even as a young kid?
You know, I was always one of those kids, and my kids are like it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was always a fan of sneakers, to be honest. But the one thing that I remember from my childhood, I was never allowed to wear sneakers for school.
Okay.
But I actually used to wear Sambas. So,
classic.
And obviously my dad used to wear them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to wear them for school, but obviously I wasn't allowed. So I just took a Sharpie and kind of blacked the stripes out, and that's how I got around it. But that's my early memories from childhood.
And a sneaker that still stands up to this day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And what I like about like you talking about the Sharpie is like, we'll get to the cleats, but you always were into personalization and customization. So even like back then, you took the Sharpie out.
And that's amazing, because obviously with my kids as well, they're all into sneakers, they're all into customizing whatever they're wearing, whether it's jeans, whether it's hoodies, whether it's sneakers. And it's one of the things that I always turn around to my kids and I'm like, I was doing this like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, of course you were, Dad. But yeah, it's exactly what I did. The only thing that I left in was the Samba sign, but I used to black out everything else. And I got away with it most of the time.
That's what I was gonna ask. You got away with it?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Okay. One thing that I read is that you would always, wherever you landed in major cities, you would seek out sneaker stores.
Yeah.
And in New York City, there's a story that was told to us. We have a podcast. Chris Vidal, who is like quintessential cool guy store manager. It's 2009, A-Life, he's the manager of A-Life. A person knocks on the door and they're like, hey, we want to shop. And Chris is like, I really don't care. 12 o'clock is when we open. Peeks around, sees that it's you, opens for you, makes the only exception in like probably A-Life history, and you went in and he sold you these. Do you remember this?
I still have those.
Really? So a very
those.
rare Bape Adidas skate. Do you remember, like, were stores shutting down, and what do you remember from that specific interaction?
So you're right. Every time that I travel, you know, one of the first things that I do is find hole-in-the-wall restaurants and sneaker stores.
Okay.
And it's one of the things I've always done, even at my age now, you know, even at 47 years old, it's the first thing I do. Restaurants and sneaker stores, whether it's for me or whether it's for the kids.
Yeah.
I always try, and that's a true story.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, look for special treatment in any of these cities that I go to, but when I'm working and when I've got time schedule and when I have to get back to the family, it's a tough one. But, you know, that was a very special moment, and to get those shoes and to still have those shoes,
it's awesome.
You know, it's a good thing.
So in 1994, you start wearing the Adidas Predator. 2003 was like when you really inked a lifetime deal, but something else happened in 2003, I remember. Jay-Z is on a Missy Elliott song and he's talking about a Visu jeans, which were like the illest jeans at the time. Still very cool, brand. And he goes, I kick game like David Beckham.
Yeah.
When you heard that, what was like your first reaction hearing that lyric?
You know, hearing Jay say something like that in one of his songs, you know, for me was kind of the best moment. You know, I've always been a fan of Jay and obviously spent time with him over the years, but to hear him actually say it in one of his songs for me was like, I called my friends, I was like, I don't know whether I heard it right, but Jay's just said that, and so it was,
that was
a
like
big
a
moment.
big lyric, that lyric.
It was huge.
Shifting gears, the kids, I know they're super into sneakers. We talked off camera. Are they ever asking you, Dad, can you call them some favors for these Yeezys?
That's all they do for me. That's all they do. Obviously, with the contacts that I have with obviously Adidas, you know, Yeezys are the first things that they kind of ask me to get them. So I'm constantly on the phone, but they're always asking for favors. They're like, Dad, I've just seen these sneakers in New York or LA or wherever we are. But the kids are such huge fans of the sneaker culture.
Do they still wear the same size as you or no? Because I heard that like they wore the same size, some shoes would go missing sometimes.
Sometimes they go missing every single day. I'll go in, you know, to get a pair of the shoes and then I'm like, okay, where I'm sure I had that So yeah, they're always stealing my shoes. Whether they are the same size as me or they're not, doesn't matter.
They're fitting it.
They make sure they fit. Luckily, none of them have got bigger feet than me, so you know they're not ruining them. But they're constantly taking my shoes.
I heard that they said, Dad, I don't know if you're a little too old for those trainers, and you were like, no, we're never too. Are we ever too old for sneakers?
I would say no. My wife would say yes.
Really?
And my kids have pulled me up at certain times, and they've been like, you know, because most of the time I wear appropriate sneakers, most of the time. But every now and again, I'll pull a pair of like Y3s out or an old school pair of, you know, basketball shoes that I have from back in the day, and they're like, Dad, no, no, you're not going out in those. But yeah.
You get to Real Madrid, you wear 23 for Michael Jordan. What about like his style on court and like what he personified? What really inspired you from him? Everything
inspired me about Jordan. You know, I think that, you know, there's so many people and cultures that have been inspired by his style, by his professionalism, with the way he plays. He's the best. So when I moved away from Manchester United, you know, I moved to Madrid. The number 7 was worn by Raul, the captain, you know, the god of Real Madrid. So I was never going to get the number 7. So they asked me, they said, okay, these numbers are available. I said, well, 23, it has to be 23 because of these reasons. You know, I was always a fan of Jordan. But I think there's so many cultures that have been inspired by him, by his game. And as you see it now, you know, the world is inspired by, you know, him.
Definitely. I know that back in the day, like 8 years ago, you were asking him for restaurant recommendations. He's super competitive. You're super competitive. Is there any friendly banter about the sneakers?
Not really. I'm not sure I can compete on that level, to be honest. But, you know, like I said, I remember being in a restaurant in London with my wife, and at the time I had my friend with me, his girlfriend, and my son, who was only probably about 8 weeks old, so he was in the carry thing. And we're sat there, and all of a sudden a bottle of champagne arrived. I was like, oh, that's nice, who's that from? And I was like, oh, well, you know, Michael Jordan's over there, he just wanted to say hello. And I was like, okay. So that's when I went over, said thank you, but, you know, we're all inspired by him.
David, so much history here, the iconic Adidas Predator, which I said, but what I feel like you really liked about it is that you could play around with them. That's why we see the kids' names, some dates. Talk about like the freedom to do that.
That's where it all started, really. You know, you see the boots these days, and back in the day, you know, I had a manager called Sir Alex Ferguson.
Only white he wanted, right?
No, only black.
Only black.
You were only allowed to wear black boots. So obviously when the coloured boots started coming out, you know, that was a bit of a struggle, but finally I was allowed to wear them. But the customization of these boots, really, you didn't do that back in the day when I was playing. So obviously, as you see, with the tongue, actually, most of the time the tongue just flapped around in games. And then obviously when I joined Adidas, I said, how about we stitch like some elastic so that the tongue just stays in place? And they was like, really? So I actually stitched at home the elastic for one of the games. It came off after 5 minutes, but the whole concept of it actually worked. And obviously, as you see, they took it into the rest of the boots going forward, but it kind of grew. It kind of went from obviously my name and the number, then it went to my son's name and the number, and then it went on from there. And then obviously I had the England flag, what game it was. Obviously it was in Japan, that World Cup, so it was a Japanese inspired boot. Predator was my career. You know, I only wore Predator boots. And then when you see the evolution of them, you know, when with this boot, you know, a pink boot was a brave choice, but actually it was something that I was very excited about. We did it for breast cancer awareness when I was playing in Los Angeles, and then I was like, actually, you know what, pink boot, I'm gonna wear a pink boot. So, you know, we kind of went from there, and then this was the boot that when I finished my career, this was the last boot that I wore in Paris. French colours, French flag, and on the other boot there was an English flag, a Union Jack. So this was the last boot I actually wore.
Amazing. Talk about the latest iteration.
Yeah, you know, I think that when we talk about the evolution of the Predator boot, you know, to then go into this, I was a bit skeptical about the whole, no laces, but actually I wore a pair of these the other day and they're actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see where it's come from and then up to this present moment. It's pretty special.
Absolutely. I kind of know the answer to this. Is there any pair that really sticks out, or is it kind of all like your babies a little bit?
They're all my babies,
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard. It's like someone turning around to you saying, "Okay, have you got a favorite child?"
Exactly.
It's not, I'd never say that
Yeah.
I've got a favorite child because I haven't.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one boot that I love, even though it's black, we actually did this boot in a white as well.
Okay.
But this boot brings back such great memories. I had a great season in this boot.
Yeah.
I just love everything about this boot is beautiful. So if I had to pick any of them, it'd have to be this one.
Amazing. Obviously, we're in Miami. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Inter Miami. Talk about how that experience has been, as you retired and like ownership now.
It's been an experience,
Yeah.
I can't lie. One of probably the toughest things that I've had to do in my business world.
Especially recently with the past couple of years.
Exactly, but actually one of the most rewarding things. To be actually able to bring, football, soccer to South Florida, to give the kids a really some inspiration and to see the next generation of players that are going to come into the US, into South Florida and to play for Inter Miami. It's a very rewarding kind of thing that we've done.
Love that. Well, we talked about everything. Now's the easy part. Browse the shelves, see what you're going to take home.
That's the dangerous part.
Let's do it.
That's the dangerous part.
Flight Club. What can I help you with today?
I'm looking for something that obviously I haven't got, and kind of a neutral colours, and I kind of like this. So if you do have this in my size, I'm just going to get one pair. So if you do have those.
What size can I get you?
10 and a half.
Alrighty, that's
great.
coming on the way for you.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, Mr. Beckham, this is all. It's going to be $448 with 65 cents.
Perfect.
All right, you're all set. There you go.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Have a good one.
So, David Beckham came through. Thanks so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Went through a lot of his history. Make sure everyone checks out and supports Inter Miami. Good luck on the rest of the season.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I've got a little gift for you, actually.
Wow.
So, there you go.
Oh, personalized.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good luck the rest of the season.
Pleasure, thanks.